Video games. Do they promote violent behavior? Now more than ever, the digital age of entertainment has reached incredible feats with the utilization of fast paced evolution of technology. Smartphones, television, streaming, music, and much more have shaped our society into a place that relies on these kinds of entertainment outlets. One primary digital entertainment source that has gained much attention for the past couple of decades is video games. People worldwide love to play and cherish the moments they endure when playing these games. However, one specific topic that has been discussed during all this time is its influence on violence. Many of these popular video games include incredibly violent and intense themes. A great deal of the public argues that these specific types of games leave a forceful negative influence on anyone who plays them. But in spite of that, research backs up that video games actually do not promote violence, and that evidence for this is scarce, and here's why. So, why do people believe video games cause violent behavior in the first place? What sparked this argument? Many of these popular games offer an immersive experience in a real world setting with real life firearms. It's not just limited to guns. Many other genres, such as fighting games, lead people to believe that it promotes physical violence, along with other genres, including substance for drug usage. This is elevated even further with the recent rise of VR games, immersing its players in the setting of these games entirely. But these shooters games are by far the most popular of these genres. Many are left to believe that the real world firearms would influence children to be interested in and possibly use them in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, why are people left to believe that there's a corresponding influence for this? Well, in America, school shootings are unfortunately an incredibly common occurrence and devastate many communities across the nation. But in a study by the American Psychological Association, researchers analyzed more than 200,000 news articles about 204 mass shootings over a 40-year period and found that video games were 8 times more likely to be mentioned when the shooting occurred. The impact that video games causes on news and media outlets for video games is significant, but does this actually influence the shooters themselves? Well, a definitive answer for this is almost impossible. However, this was put to the test in a study conducted by the JAMA Network. Gathering participants in a test at a laboratory at Ohio State University, the study conducted a statistical analysis over a series of different genres of video games, 2 violent versions with guns and swords, and 1 non-violent version with no harmful weapons. The results in this study indicate that after playing these sets of games, playing with a violent video game increased the likelihood that children would touch a real handgun, increase time spending holding a handgun, and increase pulling the trigger at oneself at others. It could be said that the activities in said games teach or guide the children on how to harm to others with said weapons. But it isn't just the games themselves that could be argued for this harmful influence. It also appears in commercials. One example is in this commercial for Call of Duty, Black Ops, which displays a war zone of real life people, normal looking people dressed very casually, multitude of firearms going at each other. But to promote this even further, the commercial included celebrities such as Kobe Bryant and Jimmy Kimmel, as shown here. Oh well, it's just a shot away by the Rolling Stones is playing in the background. Being a kid myself when this commercial released, I remember this game being the talk of the school and this recurring idea that you had to play these M-rated violent games to be considered quote unquote cool as opposed to the games made for younger audiences. Clearly, the ESRB ratings to prevent minors from accessing these games did not matter for this occasion whatsoever. Overall, there are many outlining factors here to influence one to think video games promote violence. But in spite of all these factors, this argument is completely false and misdirected. Due to the topic of video games causing violence being a very popular argument, a massive amount of studies have been conducted analyzing if this is actually true. Although there does contain many violent themes in these games, studies show that there's no relationship or negative impact between violent video gameplay and increases in aggressive thoughts and behavior. A court case was conducted with lessons for the scientific community in the wake of Brown versus Entertainment Merchants and Association concerning this topic. In this case, they reviewed multiple scholars' takes that leaned on the side of video games causing aggressive behavior. However, it seems that these scholars only advocated for work that supported their views, and they stated that they ignored research that reached conflicting conclusions. They also cited studies concluding that in certain instances there is, in fact, a negative relationship between video gameplay and aggressive thoughts and behavior. It appears that the studies that have been done to support the argument have been debunked and misleading according to the Supreme Court. But is this actually true? Well, let's assess the gamers themselves. Another study from Collabora Psychology analyzed the aggressive behavior between two violent games, the aggressive behavior of players of two violent games being Apex Legends and Outriders. The players' responses were then combined with their actual play behavior provided by each of the game publishers to avoid any outliers. As you can see, the playtime progressed there is not a significant increase in the aggressive effect as seen through here, with both given charts. But this is just about like the general player base. There's no increase across from this. This is just the general player base though. Like, how does this affect kids specifically? Well, there was another study done by Royal Society about an analytical plan testing a hypothesis that recent violent gameplay correlates to assessments of aggressive behavior for kids. In this study, young adolescent kids aged 14 and 15 were interviewed and provided reports of their recent gaming experiences, as well as caretakers providing evaluations of their adolescents' aggressive behaviors in the past month. The results of the study indicate that it did not support this assessment, nor did it support that there was even a direct correlation between these video games and behavior. Simply put, there was no evidence found that was a critical tipping point relating violent game engagement to aggressive behavior. Now, I myself have been around many people who like to play violent video games. That's me right there. And one could assume playing in a tournament environment like I am right now would inflict violent behavior between competitors of said tourney. And as someone who plays in many of these tournaments, in no way did I ever feel threatened or scared of what these people would do to me. In fact, it's quite the opposite, as these people are incredibly nice and willing to do a lot for me. I've enjoyed it so much that I attend many game tournaments, and I've made some of my best friends at these events who are all very humble and kind people. So there you have it. The argument for this topic will continue as time progresses. But ultimately, the true answer here is that the argument itself is based on assumptions and misleading takes. No matter the negative reputation that the media and public will jab at for video games, they will continue to be cherished by gamers for many years to come.